Could just call him and ask him. No.
He said Carl Jr. is playing a banjo, and you know. No, go for it. Welcome to Then You Ruined It, a podcast where two dorks try not to make a simple conversation weird and fail every time.
So I know we've all had incidents with autocorrect and that causing confusion and even hilarity with our text messages, and that definitely happens with my wife a lot because she insists on relying on Siri to craft her messages for her, and a lot of times I get random stuff that's just like, okay, now you get to figure out the context of this. Oh, great. Okay, because I'll tell her, I'll text back with just a question mark, like, what? She's like, figure it out. I'm like, no, just tell me what you said. This is very easy. Also, you're upstairs, so just come down and tell me. But no, can't be bothered.
You rate so lowly in your own house.
Well, it is 2 flights of stairs, sort of.
Install tin cans with string. Come on, solve this problem.
I mean, the problem to solve is just do it by hand and not rely on a voice robot to do it for you. So in this case, I was at home, my wife was elsewhere, and I was with the kids, and we were playing a video game together. And I received a text message from my wife. I will read the first part of it verbatim. So she says, my son's teacher just called and was wanting to check in about the positive notifications before October. He's obviously at the end of the line because he's an ass, but she said he's doing very well. And this is one of those incidents where I was like, okay, she tells me to figure out the context. And I look at him, I'm like, he's at the end of the line because he's an ass. What does that mean? And why? But he's doing very well. But I'm like, okay, why is an ass? What? I don't. That's when my kids are like, what are you talking about? What's so funny? Okay, well, I'll just read this to you. I get to the part he's an ass, and my son laughs because my daughter laughs because he doesn't know what an ass is yet, luckily.
And yet he is one, apparently.
According to his teacher, who he's had for all of 5 weeks, has decided my son's an ass.
And you're like, yeah, checks out. Apples and trees, apples and trees.
Pegged that one, lady. Good job. So later that night, my daughter comes up from her evening Splatoon session, and she says, Dad, did you tell Mommy about the thing? And I was like, oh, I forgot. Oh, yeah, okay, let's figure this out. So I went to her and asked her, and she's like, I just read it to her verbatim, and she loses it. I'm just like, what the hell did you mean? And she's like, he's at the end of the line because he's an S. His last name begins with S, so he's at the end of the line. I was like, okay, that makes sense. Read your texts before you send them.
No, it's better when she doesn't. Like, if you just got a thing about how the alphabet works, you'd be like, this is a bummer. I don't want this to interrupt my evening Splatoon sesh. But now that you get this wonderful story where your teacher, via your wife, calls your son an ass, that's amazing. That's a highlight. That's something you literally tell your friend later and record for posterity.
Thus I did. And I will also be telling the teacher about that when it comes time for conferences. I know you didn't say this, but my wife did, and I want you to hear it.
No. You go in there and you sell this. When it's parent-teacher conference, you wait until the teacher's like looking up, then you storm through the door and you slam down a paper where you have printed this out. And you're like, how dare you call my son such filthy things? I tell you, I have raised an upstanding young man.
I would agree with that, but for that scenario to be true, I have to be okay with being the one who has not talked with my wife since that message came through and up until the conferences are happening, which is in November at this point. So that'd be a month and a half. I'd go without talking to my wife at all. Guess who's the ass then?
Oh, it's always you. You're not escaping.
Well, I get that, but she doesn't need to know that. And especially in this case where I very clearly can control whether or not I'm seen as an ass. Like, a lot of times, no, that's not the case. That's just going to happen. It's a happenstance when you know me. But in this case, if I crafted this entire situation, I'd be like, wow, you really wanted me to believe that. You are an ass. And an S. Siri, did you get that? Oh, I got it all right.
It's a real SH, if you know what I mean.
Sorry, I've never called it her sh. So
No, but she's called you that a dozen times, I'd wager.
yeah. And as far as the language goes, my daughter's in middle school now, so she's picking up on some things that she may have heard them in grade school too. I'm sure she did occasionally, but sounds like she's hearing them more often. And my son, just, trying out words, whatever, happened to drop an F-bomb the other day on accident. And he moves on with his life, just like, haha, that was a funny word, right?
I love things that rhyme with duck.
Yeah. And my daughter reacted to it. And I was like, oh, okay. That's, you know that something is wrong there. So my wife and I asked her later, it's just like, you heard that word that he said. Have you heard that word before? And she's like, uh-huh. It's just like eyes bugging out of her head. And I'm like, okay.
During Dad's nightly Splatoon sesh.
Yes. I don't have Splatoon sessions. I really try to watch myself around the kids. I don't curse around them like at all. We just started like this year. I feel like when my son went to kindergarten, it's like, okay, now I'm okay with us using the word butt. We can stop calling it rump. We can stop calling it rumpus, tush. I'm fine if we say butt.
It's a glorious
all
feeling.
the time.
I remember when I also, they don't, of the multitude of things they do not prepare parents for, the relief when you can start saying butt again is palpable.
It's sad, and baby steps and all that, but it is the one that we've allowed now, so it's kind of cascading from there. My daughter was taking her computer downstairs with her yesterday and dropped her power cord, and it separated, because they separate, and that's fine, but she thought she broke it, and then I heard her going down the stairs and just crap.
That's good. That's good.
I peeked in on her and I was just like, what did you just say? Nothing. I was like, did you say crap? She goes, uh-huh. Like, yeah, what of it, old man?
You gonna fight me on this?
Yeah.
I know what my brother says.
Seriously.
You're gonna come on to me for crap. We're gonna have words, old man.
And those words are beep, 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 corn, beep, beep. It's a progression, and I'll keep an eye on it, but I don't see her. She's so buttoned up and terrified of the world in general, the real world, so I don't see her trying out those words too often. But if she does let slip an ass or something in front of us, I feel like she'll be so mortified that she'll just crawl inside her own shirt until she just folds in on herself and disappears.
So I had a really good friend whose mom would get really mad when we said butt, even though we were in junior high and high school at the time. And I'm like, no, I will say butt. And she's like, not in this house, she won't. And it became a thing like, I'm going to stop hanging out with your son. And then she made fresh cookies and I kept hanging out with him. So there has to be trade-offs in life. Freedom of speech versus free cookies. I had to choose there, and I chose the cookies.
As a junior high student, it's like, well, do I want to be able to say butt? Or do I want sweet chocolate chip cookies? That's really a no-brainer.
The best houses to hang out are the ones that perpetually smell like fresh chocolate chip cookies because she always had some around. It was dope.
Not a bad thing. I'm not sure if my friends... very few of them. I could probably count them on one hand that I ever went over to a friend's house. But I don't know if they hid the food when I came over, or if the parent. That's not true of one. There's one guy that I knew that, oh my goodness, you would come over to his house and one friend, 5 friends, it didn't matter. His mom would just cook up a feast. It's like, no, don't ever leave. You got to stay here and play with my son. Here, I'll make you dinner and here's dessert. And in the morning, it's like, no. But by and large, I just remember, there's never a good smell necessarily. And, I get it. I'm not going to cook every time a friend comes over. Hell no. But
you don't even like when your kids have friends. If it were up to you, they'd all hide in the house and never talk to anybody.
It's so appropriate and so right that you say that because they both want to have one friend over tomorrow on Saturday. And I'm just like, oh, God, no. Gritting my teeth, just it's going to ruin my entire weekend if these friends come over and I have to wonder about them being in the house together. Ugh.
Saying crap. Eating our food.
Now, that one I will not tolerate. We have a limited amount of food, and I already have to ration certain things and hide other things that that will not be allowed. That is one I would definitely put my foot down on. They're like, Dad, can we have blah blah blah? I'm like, no, You can have the tofu. We don't even have tofu. Well, I'll find you some. I think that's a pencil eraser. Nope, tofu.
I can't tell the difference between the two.
No, can't prove it. If you get sick, just tell your parents it was tofu.
We're going to stop all the kids from eating healthy in this neighborhood.
Just a rash of stomach incidents going around. It's like, what is going on with these kids? I don't know.
We've been tracking it, and it all seems to go through this house. We're not sure their name, but we know they're S's.
Yeah. My kids just say they're a bunch of S's.
So back to the topic of autocorrect getting you in trouble. I have the ultimate example of that in my own personal life. A while ago, I was texting my dad, and I just going as fast as I could doing the swipe. I use the swipe thing, and sometimes the swipe gets you in trouble because it doesn't go right. What I meant to text my dad was, let me know when you get here. What I sent my dad was, let me know when you get head.
It's like, son, I really don't think you want to know that, but...
You asked for it.
Probably gonna be a late night text. I'm sorry, but
I threw that phone in the canal. I was not like, I don't need to know what happens next. I'm like, okay. Never talk to my parents again. It's the only solution for this.
Just look down at your phone. It's like, your instinct to just throw the phone. It's a good, solid instinct.
Yes, and our smarter listeners will know that I was using the wrong here in that sense, because if I had used the right here, it would have been correct. But because I'm bread boy and the English language is my eternal nemesis, I used the wrong here and I paid for it. So grammar is important.
Well, there's also a little bit of dyslexia thrown into that one, so that makes it a little more tragic. Son, why would you ask me that? Dad, it's because I don't read too good.
Remember that F in spelling I got all through grade school? Like, from the moment it became a subject till the moment it ended, and I failed every test.
Well, balk, because those chickens have come home to roost. And I've asked you about the fellatio you've received from Mother. By the way, you never answered my text.
It hasn't come up. Expect a text around my birthday.
Oh, God. If there's ever a podcast to get your parents to like, check this one out. This is the one you want to listen to. Oh, man. I would give almost anything to like begin a campaign to get people to try and get your parents to recognize this podcast long enough to listen to this episode.
I've sent so many bad texts. I'm sure it didn't even faze him because he never responded to anything. He's like, okay, we're on our way. Like, that was like, it's like
oh, there's my son. Don't spell good.
Yeah. Oh, Dum texted us. He wants us to let him know when we get there. Because, you know, as you communicate with people for long enough, you learn their idiosyncrasies and you learn how to deal with stuff. Like, I can, when I'm talking to my wife, I can translate some of the weird things she says in English to Chinese where whatever she says makes sense. Like, in our house, she will always say, close the light. Because in Chinese, that's how you say it. But in English, we say, turn off the light. So I'm like, okay. She's like, close the light. I'm like, okay. And I turn it off. And it's got to the point where I say that. It's a problem. But, you know, that's just how it is. And sometimes, you know, you text back and forth with a dum long enough. You let me know when you get that backdoor action. He's like, he wants us to pick up barbecue on the way home. Sweet.
Let me know when you get a chance to go to the bathhouse. I think you'll like Carlos. He gives the best, sweetest, wettest head. Okay. What do you think that means? It's like, it's clearly not what he said. What do we think this means? It's a family affair. You get a text from you. It's like, all right, everybody sit down. Put the board up on the wall. We got to figure this one out. Put a pot of coffee on. It's going to be a long night. Have to figure out what our idiot son said to us. You could just call him and ask him. No.
I don't want to interrupt Carlos.
Or whoever the hell that's supposed to be.
He said Carl Jr.'s playing a banjo, and you know it. Now get over it.
Wish you told me that yesterday, son. I wouldn't be was interested in that.
Of banjo music.
You know that.
I know, that's why I texted you about it.
Why do you have to be so dumb?
I don't know. I fell a lot.
Sadly survived, and now we're here.
It was a different time back then. Used to be considered auspicious to have a dumb son.
Used to get you in secret clubs and everything.
I wanted to join the Kiwanis, but you read too good. So, threw baseball at your head.
I'm part of the JCs because I told everybody you were legally retarded.
They finally doubted me, and I showed them your last text me, and they're like, oh yeah, he sure is.
Still dealing with it, huh? Yeah, he goes to therapy, but it's a struggle.
Still dealing with it. It's not something you outgrow.
It could, I don't know. I'm not going to go down that path. I've already feel incredibly
I don't know
terrible.
how much of this is making the final cut. We might just end at you not wanting your kids to have friends.
That'll do it for this episode. Boy, I sure did ruin that. If you still need more, head on over to Twitter. I am at Idahobo, and Jason is at the Jason Sigler. We also do a webcomics review podcast called Digital Strips.